finished Korra today. So Korra's done.
Korra.
Legend of Korra. I barely remembered. Like I remember less the show. Legend of Korra.
You're right. Oh.
The Avatar show. Yeah. But the each season I've remembered less and less. And then it was like I had a fever dream moment where I was watching season 4 and everything's, pretty neat. So, it's pretty all right so far. And then they were talking about, the super weapon that fucking I've already forgotten her fucking name. Kovira super weapon that she's building. They're hyping it up. And I'm like, oh yeah, what was the super weapon? What was it? Because I remember it being a big laser beam, spiritual energy laser beam bullshit. And then there's just a scene where this like Iron Giant knockoff looking motherfucker, like giant armor suit with a big gun mounted on the arm, just slowly like walks in the frame, like giant mecha. Like, this is so stupid. Like totally the show gets so fucking nuts when it comes to technology, which was kind of fun at first, and then it got really annoying. And a lot of and there's just, God, there's so many fucking characters that it's like as soon as the show wrapped up, and that last episode, it goes by quick. So as soon as everything wrapped up, I was like, oh yeah, what happened to like those other like 15 different characters that were like pretty relevant, like pretty important, and we're just kind of like, yeah, they're doing their thing. Fight scenes were still good, and it was still, it was alright watch, but like all the villains are stupid. Like,
yeah,
like all the villains are like, I will say seasons 3 and 4 are more of a kind of a whole arc than I remember, which I appreciated. It definitely feels a lot better than like the sudden fucking, oh, okay, she's got everything she needs and everything's done, like at the end of seasons 1 and 2. So I was totally down for the whole arc of her basically just like, she just fucks off for 3 years and has to like figure her shit out, and it's actually like the most enjoyable time you get when it comes to watching Korra do shit while she's like kind of fucking around by herself. And Toph was cool because it's literally just the same. Like Katara and Zuko, they're very gentle old people, and they're very sweet, and they, you can tell they're the other original characters, but they're aged up. Whereas Toph is literally just Toph, and she just talks and acts like Toph always did. And every so often she's like, "Yeah, I'm old," she makes a remark about it. But other than that, she just speaks the exact same way. I'm assuming it's probably the same voice actress just doing a old lady voice, and it worked really well. All the stuff with her and Lin and Sue and all them, her kids and everything, all that stuff was pretty good, and the resolutions with that was pretty good. It was cool, and it was nice that it didn't feel like, okay, now we have to bring in a character from the old show to make this, make something cool happen. It's like, no, her situation actually felt relevant, and they hyped her up throughout like the whole series, saying she had fucked off somewhere, and who knows where she was going to be. So she was a lot cooler than I remember. Show is still super boring. It's just boring. It's just boring. Also, the worst consistently annoying part about Korra's character is that they do a horrible job at when she is down on her, like when she has her at her lowest points throughout the series and she's really struggling with an enemy, they never make it seem convincing that she's learned over the course of the series. It always feels like the way they animate her, like the way they have her acting and the way they have her fighting, it doesn't feel like, oh, she's been fucked up a lot and she's out of practice, or she's been this and she's been that. It just feels like, oh, you've never like practiced fighting before. Like this is weird. It's really annoying how that'll keep happening, where I'm like, you shouldn't be losing this bad. And most of the series I feel is spent watching Korra be miserable, and I got super sick of it. Like, I just got super tight. And I get the idea, because she's the polar opposite of Aang in every sense, including the fact that Aang's suffering already happened. And it continues to happen in a way, because as you go, you you know, early on in season 1 of Airbender, you go to the fucking Arab nation, Southern Never Temple, and you're expecting to find everything pretty cool, and you find like relics of where the Fire Nation came and fucked all your people, and like Sokka and Katara actively trying to like hide it from them and all this other shit, or from Aang and stuff. Like there's stuff over the course of the series that brings him down. But for the most part, the series kicks off with, man, all of my people are gone, and I was away for 100 years. Now everyone's like kind of pissed at me. And then those series is, you know, kind of moves on from there. Whereas like this, Korra just constantly beats her down, like excessively, and it doesn't really. It's hard, like, it's hard for the show to stop and have fun for long enough before it just starts beating the shit out of Korra, literally, and like every other sense. And it gets really annoying and very tiring. But yeah, show boring, but had a cool fight. Bolin, great. Bolin, great. I support.
Which one was Bolin? Was he the Earthbender or the Firebender?
He was the Earthbender.
He's the Earthbender. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems pretty true.
You can just say you hate the show because it has a woman as a main character.
Fuck.
Oh God! Like,
there he goes.
What I'm actually super bummed out about, because I didn't really remember. I don't even think I saw the last couple until much later, and even then I didn't really remember them. I felt like maybe it was just because of the internet discourse around it, but I felt like there was way more stuff built up in the last couple episodes for Korra and Asami before their whole little like hand holding thing at the end. But there was like, oh God, I was kind of bummed out because I was like, oh yeah, what did they do with them? And it's like, oh, they did nothing. It's like Korra wrote her some letters and then they held hands, and that was like about it. I was like, oh. It's kind of lame. I was hoping there would be more. Well, they spent so much fucking time on her with Mako and Asami with Mako.
You know, like cable television is not going to show homosexual relationships like developing like that.
That's pretty true. It's pretty true.
I just kept thinking there was a little more. I'm kind of disappointed because
love him or hate him, dude.
Love him or hate him, he's spit.
He's straight spitting facts.
What do I?
There's something about Korra's romantic relationships that just feels really weird. Like they spend a good majority of the time. Like, I get it, she's older than Aang, so like Aang's like love interest with Katara is more of like a childhood crush sort of thing. But and Korra's is more of like an actual like looking for a life partner or just like somebody. And they spent a lot of time on that, but I never felt any sort of connection or understanding when it came to her relationship with like anybody.
Yeah.
Like, she was a dick to Bolin.
No,
she was so mean to him.
She was an asshole to everybody. And that was like, it was one of those things where that was part of her character in general, but even then it was still. Tell you what, there were two times where there was any like Korra lovey interest bullshit happening where it was actually done in like there was an interesting moment with it. I'm gonna say moment because it feels like it's too condensed. It can't be like a whole arc or a whole situation. But there was the one very early on when they've like Mako and Korra have known each other for like 2 weeks. This is like episode 2 of fucking like they're doing their pro bending bullshit, which was also so boring. And there's a point where Korra's like, I think I got feelings for this guy. I don't know. I don't really know what that means. Whatever. And she just like, she's kind of an idiot. Like when it comes to that kind of shit. Socially, she's competent in terms of fighting and everything else, but she's so fucking like has no fucking real, like you barely feel like she has manners of any sense. So it's like, she just walks up to him and it's like, hey, I think we should hang out, you know, haha. And Mako's like, I don't know, man. And she's like, hey, I really like you and I think we should be together. And it's just, and she has this face where she's just trying so hard and immediately turns around and she's just doing the best, like, just so disgusted with herself. Like that, I felt like was good, that little moment. And then of course Mako's like, I'm sorry, it's not gonna, no. There was that. And then when her memory gets fucked up and she comes back and sees Mako where she's forgotten that they broke up. And like kisses him in front of Asami, and then so she's like, so what was happening? So what was that? You were saying something about a fight we had? And Mako's like, and there's like 100 people in the room all staring at him, including like Tenzin and like and Asami and everyone else, and he's like, it wasn't a bad fight. no, it was fine because you just can't. Like, you
Yeah.
just can't say. I'm like, oh, that's a funny situation. Just because it's funny to see, I don't know, like Mako make an expression other than just looking pissed off. Like I got so fucking bored of that character. So I'm like, oh, he's in like what feels like an actual predicament instead of just like they're screaming at each other. So I was like, okay. Of course, like what actually happened before and after all that is still fucking boring, and I couldn't stand it. But at least there was that moment of like, oh, well, that was something. Maybe they'll do something with it, and then it didn't really,
Yeah.
It's just a lot. Like, God, you just have a scene go on perfectly fine, no problems for 5 minutes, and then Korra just looks at Asami a certain way while she's looking at Mako, and then the music swells a little bit, and then she starts getting mad, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And now it has to be about this for another minute, and then we'll do this again for another 12 episodes until this fucking season's done.
Yep.
And
So
then I want
tired.
to shoot myself because I'm surrounded by all these boring characters and these boring but fun-looking fights, and I feel nothing. The one, okay, there is like one endearing moment. I think this was season 4. I'm trying to remember. No, it was probably season 3. It was like the whole airbending spiel, like right at the very beginning where everybody's getting airbending powers.
Yeah.
Because of the harmonic conversion shit.
Mhm.
And there's this one dude who's like he's like on this really, really high gate or this high bridge, and he's gonna jump, right? And like people are there's like a big crowd and everybody's making a big deal out of it, and Korra catches wind of this, and so she flies up there and talks him down. And it was pretty well done, because like the way that she described it was like the dude himself was just like, I don't know what's going on. I have these weird powers, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to leave my family. I don't know what's going on. And Korra's like, hey man, I don't know what's going on either. Like when I became the Avatar and tried to do all this, like it was not easy. And so I was like, okay, like she's doing the whole like relating to people thing. That's kind of important as the Avatar. Like the Avatar is supposed to be like this bridge, right? Just the ultimate connector in a way. Like it has the ability to connect people, or like, reach people in some way, shape, or form. And it's like, okay, there we go. She's like, finally, like it took 3 seasons, but finally I feel like I can relate with this character and I don't hate her. Like I actually like her in this moment. And that just never ever happens ever again.
Yeah, they don't
Because
do that too much.
like Dax mentioned, like the show is just too busy either beating down on Korra, or Korra is just being an asshole
Yeah.
the majority of the time. So that I just can't spend any time enjoying her character. It's just and if it's the main character and you're following up like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang was just like a joy to watch the whole time, it's going to be so hard. It's such an uphill battle for me to actually enjoy this character at all.
That's what's unique about Airbender, because like especially after rewatching Korra and more in depth and comparing it now, is that like Aang has suffering, but it's not, especially compared to other characters overall. It's all like all that's kind of been done with. Like that arc for him is in the past. So the show tries to give him a lot of opportunity, and the show even kind of pokes jabs at itself in the 3rd season, where they have moments of like, the meteor's coming in 2 weeks. Should we really be fucking around right now? But the show spends a lot of time trying to just let Aang have fun. Just give him a fucking break. And obviously like things start to come to a head as it goes, because it's that ends up being more and more and more and more of a problem. But like they still, I don't know, you get a lot of time to breathe and really enjoy time with those characters, especially with, well, obviously we had way more episodes overall, way more content and a more focused story in the first series. But yeah, it's like it's tough, because Korra feels like such a fundamentally different show, and how it's paced and organized in that way, and even just the going from a very honed in, like we're gonna have our main cast every episode, and then we're gonna bring in a few guests, and then they're gonna leave. Maybe they'll come back later, probably not, but we're just gonna focus on the main people around these new people every other episode, versus like we're just gonna keep introducing motherfuckers, and you better keep track. Do you know half the names? No, whatever. And it's just it's like how much of it can I forgive for just kind of being its own show, versus like because I don't want to be so up my ass about it and say, oh well, it didn't do everything that the original show did, so it's not as good. Because I'm fine with it doing its own thing, especially tonally with having like we said, having these be older, these older kids. So obviously they're gonna, like we said, they're gonna get involved in fucking like romance drama and shit. It's like, yeah, it's fine, hormones going wild, whatever, but it's still written like shit, and ends up being super out of place when you're trying to enjoy the show going one way, and then it's like, oh, now we have to pull into this other genre, and I'm like, oh, this is jarring.
Heck.
Fuck some damn Korra. Anyway.
And I've been saying fuck some damn Korra for the last decade, dude. Holy shit.
Last thing I'll say, season 3 wasn't as good as I remember because Zahir is way more of an idiot than I remember, and it's really annoying. Don't go to the fucking Air Nation with a whole bunch of other fucking newly recruited airbenders who don't know what they're doing, start styling on everybody, doing every little challenge and everything perfectly, and also wearing a completely different garb while speaking a different way, and also having knowledge about the airbenders that none of these other recruits would have, and then be surprised when you get caught. When one of Aang's own children is like, oh, it's Zahir, and he's like, how did they? Fuck off.
How did this not work out?
How did they? And that kind of shit happens multiple. It's stupid. It's fucking stupid. Zahir's cool by himself, but it's just written to make stupid decisions, and I'm so tired of it. Oh well.
Dax. What the fuck do you think happened to fucking Korra?
What do you mean?
Like that show, like it's so weird, right? Like they made like.
Oh, I know. Like they didn't. Nickelodeon.
Damn it, Miyamoto. Not again.
Nickelodeon didn't trust the show. That's why. I mean, even in terms of episode count, it was like way shorter per episode. And I'm pretty certain for the first couple seasons, they were like, "We're going to give you this one season, and maybe we'll give you another." And then, because like season 3 is the only one that leaves off on like, man, the Avatar is fucked up. This is definitely like not. We can't like end the series here. So it felt like season 3 and 4 were more connected overall because of that, even though they still had their own entire arc story. It's like if they had to end at 3, I guess they would have. But
wait, hold on.
That shit felt like it was they were holding on to whatever they could get for like 12 eps and then hoping to fucking God they would get permission to make another season.
I totally forgot that Korra was supposed to be like a miniseries. It was never supposed to be like a full thing, right?
It's supposed to be a miniseries?
Was it?
Yeah, like season 1 was supposed to be it. Like that was just supposed to be the Legend of Korra, just season 1. And then Nickelodeon, apparently it was doing so well that they were like, here, we're gonna greenlight more seasons for you. Go for it. Either season 1 or season 1 and season 2. I swear this is like legitimately a thing.
Well, I know what makes most sense to me is that season 1, yeah, it does well, and that's very much. I mean, especially with the end of where she's like, I don't know if I can get the air bending. Oh, I got it. It's like, okay, cool, yeah, okay, that story's done. And then it does well, and they're like, okay, yeah, you can get a second season because those are so just like. How is she going to spend several seasons doing this really big challenging thing? Oh, she got it. And then you repeat that a couple seasons and you're kind of done. And then she gets her avatar state. Then she's done.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, cool. We're going to do, man, this is doing so well. We're going to set you up for another couple seasons. But we're also going to fuck you over on the budget a lot, especially after season 3 comes out. And then that's why you end up with rush jobs. Like in season 4, it has an entire recap episode, which to be fair, Airbender had one as well, but Airbender had way more fucking episodes. And they also were way more clever with their recap episode, which was all the gang going and watching a Fire Nation stage play of the events of the Avatar Last Bender from the Fire Nation's perspective. As opposed to Korra's, which is, oh look, it's Korra and Asami talking. Asami is saying, man, it sure was crazy how this happened, and then they just go through season 2.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, well, cool, I guess.
It's about like the most basic format for a recap episode.
And it's very like, and it's because like they'll have a clip where it'll be like Mako and Korra kissing, and then it'll pause, and then you'll have these like little character blips that look like something out of fucking like pop-up video on VH1 in the fucking 90s. And it's just this like clip of like this little circle of a little chibi drawing of Mako and like the characters talking, and like that's what they use for the dialogue. And I'm like, yeah, y'all were crunching on this shit, huh? y'all didn't have a whole lot of shmoney to work with. And that's why I look at fights like when Korra's fucking initially fighting whatever fucking name,
Kuvira.
Thank you, and she's supposed to be all like, man, I'm out of practice, but she looks like she's never fought before. I'm like, is this an animation thing, or is this like you're overselling the idea? Like, is it?
Hey, we
is
ain't
it?
got no budget.
Because she
now.
literally just forgot to do anything interesting when it comes to her bending, and she's literally just throwing her fist out, and here I throw my fist, and then some fire come out, and then I throw it again, and now some water came out, and I'm like, and that fight goes on for a minute, and then she just gets demolished. I'm like, okay.
Dude, I partially blame the whole fucking pro bending being a thing.
Yeah.
Cause like that was a big part of the original, was like the whole martial arts aspect. And now that everything is modernized, all people do for bending is they just punch or kick.
Well, they still do a lot of the traditional motions, especially like whenever you see fucking something as simple as like Bowling's in a pinch and he needs to pull up a wall. He doesn't just like, throw his fist up casually unless it's like Toph, because Toph can kind of do that.
Yeah, it's still the basic thing.
But like he has to go through the full motion, and he has to do the whole pose, and he has to do the whole fighting stance and like all that kind of shit. So like it gets so focused on just like I'm throwing the thing at you. Like they get like how an airbender you would have a lot of and it would be different from different firebenders, but like Zuko in particular, they had a lot of really interesting animation choices for how they showed the arcs of the fire coming off of which moves to accentuate like how his fighting style looked, as opposed to like Azula's. Whereas like with Korra, 95% of the time she's doing fire, she's either using it for like rocket boots to like fly around, or she's just punching and then like fire, just straight shot. I'm like, they never do anything cool with like a lot of their stuff. The only time you get like the really cool bending is when you hit fucking season 3 and you get Zahir and his gang, and you get like the armless woman who uses water for arms as her arms to like move around. I'm like, that's great. And then you have the guy who's like, I'm a lava bender. I'm like, that's cool. And then Korra's like, I'm getting beat up. I'm like, okay, well, at least all the villains are doing cool stuff.
It's not like it was a very enjoyable video to watch. It was like one of those long ass video essays. I couldn't believe.
Was it the one where he's like, I'm going to tell you like my version of what I would do?
No,
and it has all the
animatics
animatics and everything. Oh, okay.
No, this was actually from somebody who is apparently like, I guess, outside of the Brony community. It was the person who did like Steven Universe's Garbage, and here's why.
Oh, okay.
And you just talked for a little bit about.
I don't know why I said okay, because that doesn't actually tell me anything, because there's a million of those. But keep going. We keep going.
It was the 4-hour one.
There's a million of those. Yeah, you're good.
No, well, in any case, it just talked about the like apparently the like the fetishistic almost emphasis on just beating the shit out of Korra and just making her suffer.
I had moments watching it where what that see okay like as I'm watching Korra, I'm having moments where it's like, dude, I just got done with this fucking Last of Us 2 discussion shit, and now I'm like, my mind's just being brought back to it, because most of the time I'm looking at the main character, she's face first in mud, just getting the shit beat out of her.
Yeah.
And then when she actually does something cool, it's like not very interesting. Like at least like when Aang, the most lame shit Aang did was like the final fight with Ozai, because he basically just wrapped himself in elements and flew around, and that was like more or less it. And Ozai was just like, oh no, I'm getting my shit rocked, and he just like kind of just put on rocket boots and ran away, and that was like most of the fight. But they had interesting other shit going on aside from it, and it was like, okay, whatever. Like that fight got pretty fucking okay, they're just kind of chucking the big things at each other, but even still, it was like, at least there were like elements, as opposed to Korra season 2, where it's straight up like, what's our final fight? Okay, they're gonna stand there. Giant energy beings are gonna stand in the ocean and throw chest beams at each other. And it's like, that's like the most you get in terms of like Korra at her strongest.
Dude, bro, remember
when
like
that's the most we've gotten, really.
Remember when Korra got her fucking ass handed to her by Kuvira when she was in the Avatar state?
Yeah.
In that first fight? Like, man, like I'm usually not the kind of guy that would be upset about like power scaling and all that, but like that's the fucking Avatar state. That's like the power of all the avatars.
They have to bring her down constantly, because when they introduce a new villain, they have to make sure they can be powerful enough.
Oh my god! But that's not how you fucking.
I know, which was great about the Airbender, because episode 1, what do we have to do? We have to go stop Fire Lord Ozai. What happens at the end of the series? They stop Fire Lord Ozai.
They did it.
And that's the whole point of the journey, and then everything else between it is like, yeah, you have different villains and things coming into play, but the nuances of why those different situations happen and how they're able to get out of them, and the variety of villains, and the way, like, the way they would introduce new people in a way to where it didn't feel like out of nowhere or really weird when they were suddenly like doing way better than the previous villain, even though the avatar's gotten way stronger. Because fucking I can't even what was this fucking name? The main dude who was always starting shit in season 1. He ended up killing the Moon Spirit and all that stuff. I can't think of his name.
General Zhao.
Zhao, thank you. Like going from Zhao to Azula is night and day, and there was like a natural increase in like, okay, yeah, like you've gotten stronger, but so has the villain, and there's the natural build up all the way to I am literally using a meteor to douse the Earth Nation in fire. You know, like there's like a natural build up to where it feels like, okay, yeah, and now that you have achieved full on Avatar state, which you fucked up initially, now you know you've got your power up, and now you win, and it's a very even upward curve. Where it's like, Korra, it's like, cool, I got airbending. All right, Amon's done. Okay, cool. Now we have to set up the next villain. All right, so there's this big jellyfish kite, who's a god, way stronger than the other one, and he's also going to fuse with this other bender, and they're going to become the Dark Avatar. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess that's a power. That's the kind of power you need at this point. It's like, okay, cool. After that, what do we need? Okay, well, we need Korra to get fucked up. She's in a wheelchair now. I'm like, all right, well, I guess the next villain can kind of chill.
Like, I guess that's some shit. Like, nope.
It's like, all right, cool. And it's like, okay, cool. Finally, we're like halfway through season 4. Korra got all the poison out, and now she's like, cool. And then she goes in the Avatar state, and I'm like, okay, cool. That whole thing's done. Now she can actually do stuff. And then she has her fight with Kuvira. And then the bullshit happens again, and she's like, "No, I got the poison out. Why am I still? Oh no, I have to spend another 2 episodes getting beat up, and then figure out my problem again." I'm like, cool, this is fucking boring. Where's Bolin? Where's Bolin? Where's Varric and Bolin? Oh, cool, thank you. You put them in the same scene together. I appreciate that.
Which one was Varric?
Varric is the inventor, the scientist slash inventor.
He's the
he definitely
he's the Elon Musk of the series.
He won out. He won out. Julie, do the thing. He won out.
He took home the dub.
Dude, he got the best dub. Bro, they were doing the I-do's, and she's like, and fucking he's reading off about it. It's like, oh, and you know, you gotta make sure you gotta do all my calluses, and she's like, oh, I love you forever, calluses and all. I'm like, damn, this is that bitch. Julie is that bitch.